Alright guys, I'm starting at 9:20. This is Wednesday and this is third period creative writing. I'm going to do a quick recap of some recent stuff and then get into an example of what we're doing for our project. So on Google Classroom, here's a post I'm about to make. Why don't I go ahead and do it now? And this is a post from yesterday. I did some parent conferences, made phone calls, and sent emails, and I'm not done. We're going to do more of that today and tomorrow. So the main question people had was about the schedule and how many days we have left and things like that. So make sure you show your parents this doc that has the Q2 dates. I didn't make this. It's the same for everybody. And so we're in this week right now. Then we have 2 totally normal full weeks. I'm going to try to finish the big stuff in this week, 16th to 20th, because afterwards we got holidays, we got breaks, we got things that are going to make it difficult to get everyone together. If we finish big stuff here, then using this for makeups, retakes, grading is going to be awesome. But if we try to actually do that stuff at the last minute, it's going to be difficult. So just a quick recap. I know I've said this a million times, but our projects this quarter are 2 things. We got the reading and we got the writing. The reading was this Halloween themed scary story project. I got a lot of those turned in, and I will check on the grades again and put in some more that I haven't yet. But make sure you do that if you haven't, because it is a good sized grade. The other thing is writing. And our plan for that is to write a non-linear story, something with the flashback, a flash forward, a jump in perspective or time or place. So I'm going to grade those as well. I gave some people credit for this one that we did examples where I gave one from a movie, and then I asked, what do you think is some you found? And it says 8. I always have more than it says because people attach a doc without submitting or whatever. That's totally fine. And I'll grade those again. And then the next step is the plan, which is to say, hey, here's what I'm going to do for my story. You can take one you already have, your story from Q1, and keep going with it. So you might rearrange, put the middle at the first, make a jump, add a flashback or flash forward, whatever will make it better. And I suggested that on some of these, and I'll continue to do so. Or you could start a new one if you don't like your Q1 story and you want to do a new thing, or if you do like it and you think it's perfect, you could start a new story. And we do have time for that, so just, again, stay on track and don't wait until the last second. But I wanted to give an example today of actually writing something down, specifically showing what I'm talking about. And I wanted to use an example of a movie I think you guys will know, Iron Man 2008. I'm not going to play this because YouTube copyright might stop me. I don't know how it really works, but I'm going to give a link in here. And I assume a lot of people have seen this movie. A lot of people have probably seen it multiple times. This is the first 5 minutes in this clip, which contains the thing I'm talking about. It's got a jump in time. So I'm going to open up a Google Doc and I'm going to type out a little bit of outline, you might say. So I can't type right now. So Iron Man, I'm going to say Iron Man 2008. I think it's 2008. And so what is the story of this movie? The story is just one character, which is nice. It's not like the later Marvel movies where you have to follow, 5 different groups and each one has 5 people. We got Tony Stark, and he starts out in the chronological version. If this wasn't told with flashbacks and flash forwards, if it was just happening in order. I'm going to check real quick, see if there's anything in the chat. No. If this wasn't rearranged, if this was just in order, then it would start off with Tony is a young, rich genius who excels at school and takes over the family business. because that's the first thing that happens to his character. We see like newspaper clippings and videos of him building robots and accepting awards and that kind of thing. And then he takes over Stark Industries, which it was already called Stark Industries because it was his father's. And after he takes over, he does well. He makes money mostly from military technology. They're showing him with like fighter jets and missiles and so on. And then he goes to Afghanistan to, I think, observe a new weapon, a new missile or something. I don't actually remember. But that's when it gets interesting, right? That's when some conflict starts to come in because his convoy is attacked. Oh, man, I really can't type. His convoy is attacked. The soldiers are killed. He's with American soldiers in a couple jeeps in the desert. Soldiers are killed. Tony is injured, and he is captured, right? We don't know who at first is doing this, but we see that the vehicle blows up, and the soldiers tell him to get down. They go out, and they try to fight, but they get shot. And this is what's in this clip that I will post for you guys. And then Tony wakes up in a cave. The captors ask him, or tell him, they don't ask nicely, to build a weapon. I actually don't remember exactly, but who cares? And he saves himself. He builds technology to keep his heart going because his heart was injured, and escapes from the terrorists. I don't remember what they're called. Who cares? And then he comes home and encounters more conflict. There's more groups from around the world who are going after him, and there's the U.S. Army who sees the fighter jets, see Iron Man. They're curious about what's going on. But the main conflict is the business partner, Obadiah Stane, which is a great name. Like, that's a great Stan Lee Marvel Comics name, you know, Obadiah Stane. He ends up being a traitor, and he's coming after Tony, and he wants to steal the technology, etc., etc. But here's the problem. If you told this story in order, if you started with this, and then blah, 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 and then it was like 20 minutes before we got to this part, you'd have a couple problems. One is that it'd be boring because there's no conflict. He's too, his life is too smooth. Everything's going well. He never gets beat up or held back or challenged. He's just doing fine, right? There are things that are added in, which like he is kind of, you know, spending time away, gambling, partying, seducing women, and that's not really the kind of stuff that would make it more interesting. I mean, it's more interesting, but it's not a conflict in terms of a story. Oops, we're about to have an
Paula
announcement.
Adams, will you please come to the AP office? Paula Adams, please come to the AP office. Thank you, dear.
The first time he has actual conflict, it's actually interesting and part of a story is right here, right? He is actually challenged by other people who put him in danger, who have things that he doesn't, who have goals that he doesn't, and he is forced to react and forced to change and forced to find strength within himself that he didn't know he had. None of that is here, right? This is just preamble. So what does the movie do? It puts this right at the beginning. Okay, we start here. He is in the convoy, and there's a nice little scene where the soldiers are quiet because they're very serious, and he's joking around, and eventually he like gets them to smile, and they are like warming up to him, and they ask if they can take a picture, and they take a picture, and then boom, right then is when the Jeep blows up, which is very nice. This is directed by Jon Favreau, who is a very good comedy director, and he's good at getting that kind of charm. You know, he used to do movies with Vince Vaughn, and Vince Vaughn is a similar thing to Robert Downey to sort of win people over and have that confidence. But then all those people are dead, and turns out that none of that stuff really mattered. The confidence, getting them to smile, who cares? That's not what the story's about. That's not what Tony has to use to save himself. And so that's when it actually turns into a story. That's when it actually gets serious. So why not start there? Okay, you make your character instantly likable because we see him win over the soldiers and get them to smile, and we smile too. We make him actually part of a story because he has conflict, he's being challenged, he's being beat up, and that's what we like. We like to see, you know, the underdog. And it's a big blockbuster Hollywood movie. You gotta start with an explosion. So we got that as well. Okay, so what do we do? I'm gonna go boom. Now, flashback. Okay, did they write it that way? Probably not. They probably wrote it the way I did and then rearranged it. Maybe even filmed it and then rearranged it in the edit. Because you have to just see what happens. You don't instantly know before you start. You have to sort of experiment. So if you watch the clip I show, it has this. All this good stuff, and then it flashes back to newspaper clippings and video summaries of, oh, we got this rich kid, he's doing well, he's making money, he's going to take over the family business, etc., etc. And if that was at the beginning, we wouldn't really like him. He'd be kind of boring. He'd be the spoiled rich kid who's got every advantage. And he'd be like the bad guys in an 80s movie who are like the snobs, you know. But now that we've seen his charm to get the soldiers on his side, and we've seen him get beat up, so we have sympathy for him, this stuff is fine. We can tolerate it. In fact, we can make him even less likable. So that's when they throw in, oh, one day he didn't get the award because he was at a casino, and one day he seduced a reporter even though it hurt the feelings of Gwyneth Paltrow. And you can throw in all this other stuff that makes him even less likable, but which makes him more interesting because we've seen the core story part of his character, which is that he's charming, but he's in physical danger, and he's going to have to use his smarts to save himself. Then he wakes up in a cave, blah, blah, blah. You read the rest. And what I would do if I was writing this is, once I have this other conflict, you know, he has the terrorists later, because he doesn't kill them all when he escapes. He has to go fight them again. And Obadiah Stane, is that how you pronounce, or that how you spell it? I have no idea. And more robot, what do you call them? Not robots, but more suits, because he built one, but then he built another, and the bad guy takes one, etc., etc. When you're writing the story, you write this, and you say, okay, here's what I need at the end. Here's what I want to give the story, or here's what I want to, you know, make the protagonist face, and then you go back and put it in here. Okay, so like, you think, I'm going to need Obadiah Stane, so I'm going to plant the seeds in the beginning. Stane is resentful. He's like in the background. If you watch the clip, you see the magazine covers and newspaper clippings and stuff, and Stane is always like looking mean, grumpy, thinking, oh, I deserve this, this is mine, I should have taken over the business, blah, blah, blah. You don't know that early on, but later it matters. And so if you were writing this, you'd write all the beginning stuff, and then you'd go, you know what, I gotta go back here and plant the seed. So that's not really nonlinear. That's not like jumping forward in time or something, but it is the idea of going through multiple drafts and giving yourself what you need. And so whatever terrorists are there at the end, you have to set up the characters. I think there's one like friendly guy who works with Tony. There's one sort of mastermind guy who's you know, he gets a name and he's important. He's not just a little villain who shoots a gun and dies. There are things you put at the end that you end up going back and setting up. But anyway, this is how you might do your story. If you turn in something like this for the plan, that's perfect. Okay, perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for. Where you have a story and you think, here's what I need at the beginning to make it interesting, to make it sympathetic, to start with the conflict, to set up the important stuff about the character, to save the boring stuff for later, to give yourself the type of beginning you want to set the tone and all of that. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the chat, and I'm going to end it now because I don't want these videos to be too long, but I hope that helped, and I will be adding in a few grades over the next few days, and then when I see you guys next week in person, we'll try to get going on making these stories happen for the final part of the quarter. Thanks.